Maple Crest was the kind of neighborhood where people argued about hedge heights and sprinkler schedules, until the day a black SUV rolled in. Too quiet, too expensive, too wrong. The driver's door opened and Victor Serrano stepped out. His tailored suit looked like it had never seen dust. Cold eyes, sharp jaw, a scar cutting through one eyebrow like it was telling you not to ask what happened. But it wasn't the man who made everyone freeze behind their curtains. It was what came out after him. A bulldog. Not the cute kind from Logos or pet shows. This one was massive, shoulders like a weightlifter, chest like a barrel, jaws that could crush bone. The leather harness dug into its muscled body as it surveyed the street with eyes that had seen violence. "That's the Serrano dog," someone whispered from a porch. The rumours had reached Maple Crest weeks before its owner. They said the dog had once bitten a man so badly that paramedics couldn't tell where flesh ended and pavement began. They said Victor trained it to protect him with a loyalty bought in blood. Victor walked it like you'd carry a loaded gun, carefully, respectfully, aware of its power. The dog's breath rasped like chains dragging over concrete. And then, from across the sidewalk, a little girl stepped out of a driveway. Pink dress, worn sneakers, a backpack almost bigger than her small shoulders. She couldn't have been older than 7. The bulldog saw her. It lunged forward with such force that the leash snapped tight. Victor's arm flexing like steel cable as he held on. But the dog dragged him forward anyway, paws scraping against concrete, snarling with intent. A scream rose in someone's throat. The little girl didn't run. She did something no adult on that street would ever do. She opened her arms wide, fearless, like she was welcoming an old friend. "Hi, Brutus," she said, her voice calm as sunlight. "I know you." Victor's eyes widened, his face going still, because that was the dog's name, and nobody outside his inner circle was supposed to know it. "Junie?" A woman's voice cut through the frozen moment. She hurried from behind the girl's house, hair hastily pinned back, face drained of colour. Maribel's heart moved like someone who'd learned to keep panic quiet, urgent but controlled. "Get back inside. Now." Her words were tight, her eyes never leaving Victor or the straining bulldog. Junie didn't move. The massive dog pulled against its leash, foam gathering at the corners of its mouth. Victor's knuckles went white around the leather strap. "Call her off," he ordered Maribel, voice low and dangerous. Maribel swallowed hard. "Junie, please, come here." But Junie tilted her head, studying the growling animal. "He's not mad," she said softly. "He's scared." Victor's nostrils flared. "Scared?" The word sounded foreign in his mouth. Then Junie did the unthinkable. She reached one small hand into her backpack and pulled out something so innocent it felt wrong in this moment of danger, a stuffed bunny, faded pink, missing one ear. The bulldog's growl stopped mid-throat, its eyes locked onto the toy like it had been searching for it. "You remember?" Junie asked, holding it up. The massive animal trembled, not with rage, but with something that looked impossibly like recognition. And then, slowly, so against everything nature and training demanded, the bulldog sat. Not because Victor commanded it, because Junie did. Victor stared at the girl like the universe had betrayed him. His eyes moved from the child to the dog to the toy, trying to make sense of what couldn't be happening. Maribel's hands shook as she stepped closer to her daughter. She looked at Victor, then at the dog, then back at Junie, fear and knowledge battling across her face. "Where did she get that toy?" Victor's voice had dropped to something dangerous and quiet. Maribel's lips parted. I don't know." But her eyes told a different story. She knew exactly where the toy came from. She just hadn't told anyone. And now the most dangerous man in the city was waiting for an answer she couldn't give. The bulldog, Brutus, whined softly. A sound no one had ever heard from the beast before. His eyes never left the stuffed bunny, or the little girl holding it. Victor took a step closer, his shadow falling across Junie. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice gentler than it had any right to be. "Junie Hart," she answered, unafraid. "And you're Victor. Brutus told me about you." Maribel's breath caught. "Junie, that's enough." But it wasn't enough. Not for Victor, whose eyes narrowed with calculation and something deeper, something that might have been wonder. "Dogs don't talk," he said. "Not with words," Junie agreed. "But they remember, just like people do." Maple Crest had gone silent. No lawnmowers, no sprinklers. Just the sound of Brutus's breathing, calmer now, and the weight of questions no one dared to ask. Victor looked at Maribel, his gaze hardening. "We need to talk." It wasn't a request. It was the kind of statement that changed lives. And Maribel knew, watching her daughter pet the head of a killer dog, that nothing would ever be the same again. You've seen how high the stakes are now, but this is just the beginning. What happens next will change everything. Comment where you're watching from. Now let's get into it. Subscribe now and stay with us. You won't want to miss what's coming. Can you walk away now knowing you've come this far? Maribel hadn't always lived on quiet Maple Crest Street. 2 years earlier, she'd volunteered at Hope's Bridge Animal Centre in the city's roughest district. Her job? Rehabilitate dogs seized from fighting rings and abuse cases. The kinds of animals whose scars told stories no one wanted to hear. One morning, our police brought in a bulldog so badly beaten they weren't sure he'd survive the night. His body was a map of old wounds and fresh cuts, ribs showing through skin, eyes vacant with trauma. They gave him a case number, B27. No name, no past, just another broken animal. But 5-year-old Junie, who sometimes came to the shelter after kindergarten, saw something different. "He's just sad, Mommy," she'd whispered, peering through the kennel bars at the trembling dog. The staff had warned everyone to keep their distance. He was dangerous, unpredictable. Junie didn't listen. When no one was watching, she'd slip to his cage, sitting cross-legged outside it. Sometimes she'd hum. Sometimes she'd talk about her day. Sometimes she'd just sit in silence. And the bulldog watched her, day after day, his eyes following her movements. Then one afternoon, the Maribel found Junie pressing something through the bars, her favourite stuffed bunny. "Junie, no!" she'd gasped. "He'll tear it apart." But the dog didn't. He took it gently, carried it to his bed, and lay down with it tucked against his massive head. After that, something changed. B27 began to heal. Not just his body, but something deeper. Until the men came. 3 of them, in expensive shoes and blank expressions, claiming the dog was property that had been stolen from them. Maribel had refused. The shelter director backed her. 3 nights later, the security cameras went dead. The back door was found broken open. B27 was gone, and now, 2 years later, he stood on a suburban sidewalk with a new name, Brutus, on the leash of a man who commanded fear with a whisper. Victor Serrano hadn't been born to power. He'd claimed it, a inch by bloody inch. The city knew his rules: no drugs, no trafficking, no innocent casualties. But everything else? That was his. Protection rackets, underground casinos, import routes, debts collected with methodical efficiency. His enemies called him a monster. His allies called him pragmatic. Victor called it survival. Only his inner circle knew how he'd nearly lost it all 3 years ago. A rival named Dante Rusk had ambushed Victor's convoy, leaving 3 of Victor's men dead, and Victor himself bleeding out in a warehouse. Victor survived. Barely. When he woke up in a private clinic with 23 stitches holding his side together, there was something unexpected waiting. A bulldog, sitting beside his bed like a silent sentinel. "Found him in a fight ring," Gideon Pike had explained. Or leaning against the doorway with that snake charmer smile. Gideon, Victor's right hand, the man who handled the jobs that required creative cruelty. "Thought you could use some extra protection. He's mean enough to match your enemies." Victor hadn't wanted a dog. Attachments were weaknesses. Weaknesses got you killed. But the bulldog stayed, silent, watchful, something in its scarred face reflecting Victor's own history. He named it Brutus. And over time, the dog became more than a weapon. It became the only living thing Victor trusted completely, the only one who guarded him without expecting payment, the only one who didn't flinch when he showed anger. No one could approach Brutus except Victor. No one could touch him. No one could control him. Until today. Until a little girl with a pink backpack and a one-eared stuffed bunny. Victor watched Junie stroking Brutus's head, the massive dog leaning into her touch like he'd been waiting for it his entire life. And for the first time since he'd built his empire, Victor Serrano felt something dangerous. Doubt. The morning sun painted Maple Crest in deceptive gold when Victor's car returned. He didn't come to the door. He waited by the curb, patient as a predator. Maribel watched from behind curtains, Junie asleep upstairs, dreaming of a dog who remembered her. When Maribel finally stepped outside, Victor's voice was unnervingly calm. "Your daughter knows my dog?" "That shouldn't be possible." Maribel crossed her arms. "What do you want?" "Something's wrong with Brutus," Victor said, words precise and careful. "He's been unstable lately, aggressive even with me." The admission cost him. Maribel could see it in the tightness around his eyes. "And that concerns me, how?" "If your daughter can control him, you can help me fix what's wrong with him." Maribel's laugh was sharp. "You're asking me to train your attack dog?" "Absolutely not. This isn't a request." Victor's voice dropped. "Either you help, or I find other ways to get answers." The threat hung between them, unspoken but clear. "Mom?" Junie stood in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Is Brutus okay?" Before Maribel could answer, Victor knelt to Junie's level, a gesture that seemed foreign to his body. "He misses you," he said simply. Junie's face brightened. "Can I see him again?" "Junie, no." Maribel started. "If I help Brutus," Junie said with a child's directness, "will you stop being mean to people?" Victor's expression changed. Surprise. Then something close to respect. "I'm not mean," he said. "I'm necessary." Junie tilted her head. Necessary for what? No one had questioned Victor like this in years. For keeping order. "But you're scaring my mom," Junie said. Victor looked at Maribel, really looked at her, as if seeing the human behind his obstacle. "If you take Brutus," Junie declared, "I'm coming too." Maribel's heart stopped. "Absolutely not." Victor's eyes measured Junie like a puzzle he couldn't solve. "Fine," he said finally. "Both of you." And Maribel realized she wasn't dealing with a normal criminal. She was dealing with a man who believed power was the only kind of love. Victor's home sat on the highest hill overlooking the city, part fortress, part palace, stone walls, iron gates, guards with eyes that tracked movement like hunters. Inside, everything gleamed with cold perfection. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, art that cost more than most people's lives. Maribel kept Junie close, heart hammering. Every instinct screamed to run. But where? Victor led them through corridors where staff lowered their eyes as he passed. No one spoke. No one smiled. The air felt thick with unspoken rules. "This wing is yours," Victor said, opening double doors to reveal rooms dressed in subtle luxury. "No one enters without permission, including me." Maribel's suspicion must have shown because Victor added, "I'm many things. Not that." He issued orders to the staff. "The woman and child are guests, not prisoners. No one touches the dog. No one approaches the girl without permission." Brutus padded to Junie, lying at her feet like a guardian. When they were alone, Maribel whispered, "We need to leave." "How?" Junie asked, petting Brutus. "He needs us." "Victor Serrano doesn't need anyone." "Not him," Junie corrected. "Brutus." Maribel knelt beside her daughter. "Junie, listen to me. These are dangerous people." "Is that why you're scared?" Junie's eyes held wisdom beyond her years. "Because you know something about Brutus?" Maribel's voice caught. "Yes." "Should we tell Victor the truth?" Before Maribel could answer, the door opened. Victor stood there, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms mapped with scars. "Tell me what truth?" he asked quietly. Maribel stood, positioning herself between Victor and Junie. "That dog was stolen from a rehabilitation shelter." Victor went still. A micro-expression flashed. Anger, surprise, something like regret. Then he said, almost to himself, Gideon. Maribel's blood ran cold, because she hadn't told him Gideon's name. She hadn't said who stole the dog. And yet Victor spoke like he already knew. That night Maribel couldn't sleep. She paced the guest room, listening to Junie's soft breathing from the connected bedroom, feeling like a bird in a gilded cage. A quiet knock came at the door. She opened it to find Victor standing there. His tie was loosened, sleeves rolled up, looking less like a legend and more like a man who'd been awake too long. "I'm not here to threaten you," he said. "I'm here to ask something." Maribel didn't step back. "Mafia bosses don't ask." Victor's mouth twitched, almost amused. "Then I'm doing it wrong." He glanced down the hall where Brutus lay outside Junie's room like a loyal boulder. "That dog," Victor said quietly, "was the first thing that didn't betray me." The confession hung in the air, unexpected and raw. Maribel's voice softened despite herself. "Dogs don't betray. People do." "So why did you look at me like I'm the one who stole him?" Victor asked, eyes searching hers. Maribel's breath caught, because she had, and now she wasn't so sure. "Gideon told me Brutus was from a fighting ring," Victor continued, "that he saved him. And you believed that?" "I believed he was like me." Victor's gaze fell on Junie's door. Damaged, but salvageable. Maribel saw something then, a crack in his armor, a glimpse of the man beneath the monster everyone feared. "Why are you telling me this?" Victor stepped closer. "Because your daughter sees something in him worth saving, and I need to know if she's right." The silence stretched between them, and filled with questions neither dared to ask. The space between their bodies seemed charged, dangerous in a way that had nothing to do with threats. Maribel stepped back. "Let us go in the morning." Victor nodded slowly. "I will, but first, I need you to see something." Victor led Maribel downstairs to a locked room beneath the main house. He keyed in a code, pushed open a heavy door. Inside wasn't what she expected. Files, photos, shipping manifests, financial records, evidence. Maribel's throat tightened. "Why are you showing me this?" Victor's voice was flat. "Because you think I'm the villain. And maybe I am." He pulled out a photo, grainy, brutal. A dog-fighting ring. Brutus in the center, younger, blood on his muzzle, eyes empty. Maribel's hand flew to her mouth. "I didn't steal him," Victor said. "Gideon brought him to me." "Told me it was a gift. A weapon." He turned to her. "But he lied about where he got him, and what he did to him." Maribel whispered, "So you're keeping evidence? Against your own people?" Victor's eyes hardened. "Gideon is not my people." He spread more photos across the desk. Girls in shipping containers, children huddled in warehouses. "Dante Rusk runs trafficking. I don't allow it in my territory. Every time I try to step away, he moves in. People disappear. Children vanish. You expect me to believe you're some kind of criminal with a conscience?" "I'm telling you I want justice," Victor said, not flinching. "Real justice." Maribel stared at the evidence before her. "And you trust me with this?" Victor's gaze flicked toward where Junie slept. "I trust her, and she trusts you." The realization hit Maribel like cold water. The fix Victor wanted wasn't just for the dog, it was for himself. "Why would Gideon betray you?" she asked. Victor's face darkened. Money, power, or maybe he was always working for Rusk. Maribel looked at the photos again, the dog, the children, the victims. "What do you need from us?" she finally asked. "Help," Victor said simply, "with Brutus first, then with what comes next." For the first time, Maribel saw the weight he carried, not just an empire built on fear, but a war fought in shadows. And somehow, her daughter and a broken dog had become the center of it all. The next morning brought Rain and Gideon Pike. He walked into Victor's study like he owned it. Hands in pockets, smile smooth as glass. His suit was perfect, his eyes calculating behind an easy charm. "Boss." He nodded to Victor, then noticed Maribel. Well, company." His gaze shifted to Junie, who stood by the window with Brutus at her side. Something flickered in his expression, surprise, then cold assessment. Brutus rose, hackles lifting. A low growl vibrated through the room. "Easy, monster," Gideon said, but kept his distance. "He doesn't like you," Junie observed, hand resting on Brutus's head. Gideon's smile widened, but his eyes sharpened. "Dog still hates me. Must be my charm." Maribel's skin prickled. Her instincts screamed danger, not the obvious kind like Victor's, but something worse, something hidden. Victor watched Gideon closely. "You told me you found Brutus in a fighting ring." "Did. Pulled him out myself," Gideon shrugged, inspecting his cufflinks. Maribel spoke before she could stop herself. "You stole him from a shelter." The room froze. Gideon's gaze snapped to her, smile still there but colder now. "That's so." Victor's voice dropped. "Did you?" Gideon chuckled. "Boss, you don't want to go digging into charity stories. You've got bigger problems." "Answer me." Victor stepped forward. "I did what I had to do." Gideon's smile finally cracked. Junie's voice cut through the tension, small but clear. "You hurt him." Gideon looked down at her. "Sweetheart, the world hurts everyone. Not everyone makes it worse on purpose." Junie hugged Brutus closer. Something ugly surfaced in Gideon's eyes. Quick, controlled, but unmistakable. The look of a man who enjoyed causing pain. "Such a smart little girl," he said softly. "Where did you find her, Victor?" Victor moved between Gideon and Junie. "We're done here." "Are we?" Gideon asked, voice light. "Because I came with news. O'Rusk is moving shipments tonight. Thought you'd want to know." "I'll handle it," Victor said. Gideon nodded, backing toward the door. "Always do, boss. Always do." After he left, Maribel whispered, "He knows about the evidence, doesn't he?" Victor's face was grim. "Yes." And suddenly, Maribel realized the truth. Gideon wasn't just an enforcer. He was the rot eating Victor's empire from within. "You've come this far with us, seen the danger building, felt the tension rising. But this is just the beginning of what's about to unfold. Don't miss what happens next. Comment where you're watching from. Now, let's get into it. Subscribe and stay with us through a story of betrayal and justice that's about to explode. That night, alarms screamed through the mansion. Maribel jerked awake to find Victor at her door, gun drawn. "Get Junie. Stay down." "Follow me." The mansion's lights cut out. Emergency generators hummed to life, casting everything in dim red. "What's happening?" Maribel grabbed Junie from bed, heart pounding. "We're under attack." Victor's voice was ice. "Rusk's crew. They shouldn't know this location." Unless someone told them. Brutus pushed past Victor, positioning himself in front of Junie and Maribel, a living wall of muscle and fury. Victor led them through a back corridor as gunfire erupted from the main entrance. Guards shouted, glass shattered. They made it to Victor's office, reinforced doors, security monitors showing men pouring through the gates. Masked, armed, methodical. "Stay here," Victor commanded, checking his weapon. "This room is secure." Junie clung to Maribel. "They're going to hurt people." Victor paused, looking at the child. For one moment, and his mask slipped, revealing not a crime lord, but a man afraid for someone he cared about. Then Brutus growled, not at them, but at something on the security feed. A side door opening. Gideon, punching in a code, letting Rusk's men inside. Betrayal. Victor saw it too. For the first time, fear flickered across the Mafia boss's face. Not for himself, for Junie. He turned to Maribel. "There's a tunnel behind the bookcase. Code is 7319. Get her out." "Victor!" Maribel started. A crash from beyond the door. Victor stepped into the hallway, Brutus at his side. "Gideon!" he called out. Gideon turned, pistol already drawn, smile back in place. "Sorry, boss, you were going soft." He raised the gun toward Victor. Brutus moved faster. The Bulldog slammed into Gideon, knocking him sideways. Gideon fired wildly. A scream from the office doorway. And Maribel looked down and saw Junie standing there, pink pajamas blooming red at the hem. Time stopped. "Junie!" Maribel cried, rushing forward. Victor's world collapsed. He dropped to his knees beside the child, hands trembling like he'd never held anything fragile before. Junie gasped, eyes wide with shock. She lifted a small hand and touched Brutus's face as he whined beside her. "It's okay," she whispered. "Don't be bad, because I got hurt." Brutus made a sound no one had heard before. Grief, raw and primal. Victor looked up at Maribel, his face stripped of every mask. "Save her," he said, voice breaking. "Please." Maribel's hands pressed against the wound, confusion mixing with terror. "Why are you acting like she's—" Victor swallowed, eyes burning with truth and pain. "Because she is." Maribel's breath vanished. Victor said it anyway. "She's my daughter." They escaped through the tunnel as gunfire shattered the mansion above them. Victor carried Junie, his face carved with terror. Maribel ran beside them, pressing a makeshift bandage against the wound. "Stay with me, Junie," she whispered. "Stay with me." Junie's eyes fluttered. "He didn't mean to be scary." Maribel choked back tears. "I know." The tunnel led to a garage with a single black car. Victor placed Junie in the back seat with impossible gentleness, then drove through rain-slick streets like a man outrunning death itself. At a private clinic where no questions were asked, doctors worked quickly. The bullet had grazed her hip, painful, terrifying, but survivable. Junie would live. In the sterile hallway, Victor slumped against the wall, on hands still stained with his daughter's blood. "How?" Maribel demanded, voice shaking. "How is she yours?" Victor looked up, stripped of power, just a father afraid for his child. "Katia," he said, the name like a prayer. "Her mother. We were together before all this." "And you abandoned them?" Pain flashed across his face. "I thought they were dead." The story spilled out, how rivals had threatened Katia when she was pregnant, how she disappeared to protect the child, how Victor searched but found nothing. "Until I moved surveillance to Maple Crest, following Rusk's trafficking routes." Victor's voice cracked, and there she was, walking to school, looking just like her mother. Maribel's anger collided with understanding. "So you watched us. For how long?" 3 months. I wasn't going to approach. Wasn't going to drag her into my world." His eyes closed. "Then Brutus saw her. Then she said his name." "Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? Would you have let me near her?" Victor asked. "I was going to find another way, a safe way." Maribel stared at this broken version of the man everyone feared. "And now?" she asked. Victor's gaze hardened. "Now Gideon dies, Rusk dies, anyone who touched her dies." "That won't protect her," Maribel said. "That just makes more enemies." Victor looked at her eyes, desperate. "Then help me. Help me choose justice over revenge." Maribel made one call, quiet, carefully worded, to Detective Celine Crowe, the woman she'd once helped at the shelter, now leading a human trafficking task force. Within 48 hours, the city moved like a chessboard flipping. Our Victor handed over everything: shipping manifests, bank records, security footage, names, dates, routes. He didn't do it for leniency. He did it because Junie had bled on his hands. "This will end you," Selene warned him, reviewing the evidence in a safe house while Junie recovered under watch. "Your organization, your freedom." "I know," Victor said. "Why now?" Selene asked. Victor looked at the room where Maribel sat with Junie. "Because some things matter more than power." The raids began that night. Warehouses, clubs, storage facilities. Arrests piled up like dominoes falling. Rusk's operation collapsed within days. Years of human trafficking exposed. Victims freed. Accounts frozen. Gideon was caught at the airport with offshore accounts and a ticket to a country with no extradition. The officers found dogfighting records in his luggage, proving he'd been the one stealing fighting dogs, training them, selling them. In court, Gideon smirked at Victor across the room. "You think you're the hero now?" Victor leaned close, voice calm as a grave. "No." Then he looked at Maribel in the gallery holding Junie's hand. "But I'm done being your villain. Gideon's smirk died. The judge didn't go easy on anyone. Victor faced his own charges because redemption doesn't erase crime. But Celine and the prosecutors acknowledged what mattered. Victor's cooperation had dismantled a trafficking ring that had eluded them for years. Lives were saved, children were freed, and the city finally saw a crack in the myth of Victor Serrano. Not a heart of gold hiding beneath the monster, but a father willing to lose everything to protect his child. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters the day Victor Serrano accepted his plea deal. 3 years minimum security, asset forfeiture, cooperation with ongoing investigations. A light sentence, some said. The heaviest burden, others knew. Maribel watched from the back as Victor stood straight-backed in his tailored suit. No longer a shadow king, but a man paying debts long overdue. He didn't look at the cameras. He looked at her, at Junie in the wheelchair beside her, the child who had changed everything. Weeks passed. Hospital rooms became physical therapy appointments. Junie's wound healed faster than the adults around her. "When is Victor coming back?" she would ask, eyes wide and curious. Maribel never knew what to say. How do you tell a child the father she just found might disappear again? "He's fixing things," was all she could offer. Each week letters arrived for Junie, stories about a boy who had to learn to be brave, about a dog who found his true home, about promises that would never break again. Maribel read them aloud, watching her daughter smile, watching Brutus rest his massive head on the bed, transformed from weapon to guardian. One evening, Detective Selena visited their new apartment, safe, anonymous, paid for with what remained of Victor's legal assets. "He gave up everything," Selena said, watching Junie sleep. "Names we've chased for years. Roots we didn't know existed. Corruption we couldn't prove." "Why tell me this?" Maribel asked. "Because you should know." Selena's eyes were kind but direct. "He's not coming back the same. If he comes back at all." That night, Maribel found herself holding one of Victor's letters, unopened. Addressed to her, not Junie. Her fingers trembled as she broke the seal. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But Junie does deserve the truth. About who I was, who I am trying to become, and who her mother was, brave enough to leave me to save our child. Whatever you choose to tell her about me, make it honest. Even the worst parts. Especially those. Everything I have left is hers, and yours, to protect her." V. Maribel pressed the letter to her chest, tears falling for a man she should hate but couldn't anymore. Because redemption isn't clean. It costs everything, and sometimes it's just the beginning. 6 months later, Maple Crest bloomed with spring flowers. Junie walked carefully along the sidewalk, each step a victory. Brutus padded beside her, no longer a monster to fear, but a friend who guarded her steps. Maribel watched from the porch, heart full and worried all at once. A car pulled up. Not black and sleek, but modest and grey. Victor stepped out. No suit today, simple jacket, faded jeans. No guards. He looked human. Junie saw him first. Her smile burst like sunshine as she called, "Victor!" Still not comfortable with Dad, but trying the shape of it in her heart. Victor knelt as she ran to him, his arms opening to catch her. Over her shoulder his eyes found Maribel's, questioning, hoping, afraid. Maribel moved toward them, each step heavy with all the words unsaid. "You're out," she said simply. "Good behaviour," Victor replied, and continued cooperation. His eyes took in their home, smaller than her old one, but safe, protected. He held out a small envelope. "I signed over the property in trust," he said. "For Junie. And for you, if you'll manage it." Maribel's eyebrows lifted. "Why would I do that?" Victor's voice lowered. "Because Junie needs stability and because—" He hesitated, an unfamiliar weakness. "Because I don't know how to be good alone." Maribel stared, torn between fury and something warmer. "Are you asking me to forgive you?" she asked. Victor shook his head. "No, I'm asking you to watch what I do next." Brutus pressed his head against Victor's leg, loyalty unbroken. Junie looked up, eyes bright. You can be nice, she told him. Just practice. Victor's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Maribel exhaled. Practice starts with honesty. Then here's the truth. Victor looked at her like a confession. I don't just want redemption. I want a life. His eyes flicked to her lips, then away, respecting the line. Forbidden love, restrained. A romance built on broken things trying to become whole. Maribel didn't say yes. Not yet. But she didn't say no. And as the spring wind carried the scent of new beginnings, she realized some wounds heal stronger than the original bone. Some hearts, too. Autumn painted Maple Crest in gold and copper when Victor returned with papers in hand. Legal documents, property deeds, trust funds, everything arranged with careful precision. He sat at Maribel's kitchen table, pen hovering over the final signature. Once I sign this, everything transfers to Junie, he explained. The house, the accounts, the investments, all clean, all legal. You'll be the trustee until she's 21. Maribel poured coffee, watching him through steam. Gee, you're giving up everything. I'm securing her future, Victor corrected. And yours. His hand completed the signature with a practiced flourish. Outside, Junie chased fallen leaves with Brutus, her limp barely noticeable now. Her laughter drifted through open windows, a sound that still made Victor pause whatever he was doing just to listen. She asked about her mother again, Maribel said quietly. Victor's jaw tightened. What did you tell her? The truth, that Katia loved her enough to disappear, that she was brave. Maribel sat across from him. She wants to know if she looks like her. Victor reached into his pocket, withdrew a worn photograph. A woman with Junie's smile, Junie's eyes. I found this in a storage unit Katia kept. Detective Crow helped me locate it. Maribel touched the photo gently. She was beautiful. She was stronger than me, Victor said. She knew what I couldn't see, that my world would destroy anything good in it. Their fingers brushed as Maribel returned the photo. Neither pulled away. You've changed, Maribel said. Victor looked at her directly. Not enough, but trying. Every day. The silence between them held weight. Questions, fears, possibilities. Maribel broke it first. Junie's teacher invited you to the fall festival. She wanted me to ask if you'd come. Victor's surprise was evident. A school function. Normal dad stuff, Maribel explained, a small smile touching her lips. Bobbing for apples, face painting, cotton candy. Victor looked like she'd suggested skydiving without a parachute. I don't know how to do that. Nobody does at first. Maribel's hand found his. We learn. Victor turned his palm up, fingers curling around hers. We. The question hung between them, delicate, hopeful, afraid. Maribel didn't answer with words. She leaned forward, her free hand touching his face, tracing the scar through his eyebrow. Their lips met halfway, gentle, questioning, then sure. When they separated, Victor's voice was rough. I don't deserve this. No, Maribel agreed, but Junie deserves a family. And she paused. I want to see who you become, Brutus barked from the yard. They turned to see Junie waving, beckoning them outside. Together they stepped into the autumn light, toward the child who had somehow saved them both. I still don't know how to be normal, Victor admitted. Maribel squeezed his hand. Then stop trying to be normal, just be good. As Junie ran to them, Victor felt something he'd forgotten existed. Peace, but peace, like empires, can be targeted. Across the street, a dark sedan idled too long. The man inside took photos, made notes, sent messages, because Dante Rusk had friends in high places, friends who'd promised Victor Serrano would pay for his betrayal. Friends who knew the best way to destroy a man wasn't by attacking him directly. It was by taking what he loved. The new war wouldn't be for territory. It would be for family. And this time, Victor Serrano had everything to lose. You've just witnessed a father's redemption and a family forged through fire. But the shadows of the past never truly disappear. What would you do to protect the ones you love from an enemy you can't see coming? If this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button now. Comment below with what you think will happen next. Will Victor's past destroy his chance at happiness? Or will his love for Maribel and Junie give him the strength to face what's coming? Don't miss our next video, where a different kind of justice awaits. This is Dawn Romance Tale, where love and danger walk hand in hand. Subscribe today and join our family of viewers who believe everyone deserves a second chance, even a mafia boss with a bulldog no one could tame.